Session is going to be handled by Arun Baby sir. He is a data engineer at Spacept and also an alumni of Mechanical Engineering Department at GEC Barton Hill. There are a few points to be noted by the participants. For the smooth running of the session, don't forget to mute your mic, and the certificates will be given to only those who fill the feedback form, which will be provided at the end of the session. Now, I welcome our speaker, Arun Baby sir, to take over the session. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
My internet is a bit spotty, so if at any point of time it breaks, do let me know in the message. Thanks. So I guess we can start now. So I'm assuming everyone can see the screen right now. So yeah, let's start. My name is Arun, and I have completed my graduation from GEC Barton Hill in mechanical engineering, and later on I went on to work as a project assistant at IISc, where I worked on the automation of biomedical image analysis for about 3 years, and I am fortunate to. I was fortunate there to work with a few of my fellow classmates and my juniors from GCB. So we had a great time there, and so I'm really happy to come back to GCB to have this talk with you. And after beginning this year, I have left my position at IISc and started part-time as a data engineer at a Swedish company named Spacept. So we'll be focusing more on the medical applications of AI in this talk, and towards the end, I just want to share some of the cool things that were happening in the startup I work with. So let's move on to the next slide. So right now, a lot of traction is going on in the research and the startup area in the for the medical applications of AI, and it has been one of the earliest applications where application for which the AI was developed. It was I think in 1970s where Stanford first developed a rule-based AI system for detecting if a patient is having an infection or not. We have come a long way from that rule-based system. And right now, the medical industry is funding the medical AI startups are one of the most funded startups in AI. Now I would like to tell you about why we are at a stage where we are right now with this sudden surge in AI research. So first of all, we have a lot of digital information available. Of course, this is true for a lot of other domains, but particularly in the medical industry, we, especially in developed countries, we have a lot of, there was a lot of standardization and regulation where it was required for everyone to, every healthcare personnel to document document the patient data in the digital format. So as AI right now being much more data hungry process, this was really this really boosted the amount of research and applications that came forward. Beginning in of the previous decade, that is during the 2010s, after 2010, we have very impressive developments in the machine learning algorithms such as CNNs, which further improved the algorithms and their applications in AI. Previously, whenever a company wants to have a really compute intensive process, they had to work much. They had to procure their own infrastructure, and it was really hard for smaller companies to have really compute intensive programs running. So with the advent of cloud computing, that's changed, and we are now, even as students, we are now able to access a lot of computing resources, and this really improved access and therefore really incentivize people to develop AI algorithms generally, but it also impacted the medical industry machine learning domain a lot. So coming to the kind of data that the healthcare industry generate, it's basically a lot. And it's in exabytes of data that was generated per year. So 1 exabyte is around 10 to the power 18 bytes. So that's a lot of data, and it's like a lot. It's a lot of data that is still not utilized for these machine learning programs. So we have a lot of potential to generate solutions that are helpful for the healthcare system as a whole. So coming to the types of data, we have medical imaging data, where we take images from a part of our body, and this is one of the most common and the most focused area for AI in medical imaging, in medical sector. Then we have the data from time series data from a lot of wearables and medical devices. Following the regulations from the regulatory authorities, we now have a really comprehensive list of health records for the patients, and that data is right now helpful for a lot of machine learning algorithms and solutions. So other than that, we have a lot of data available on the internet that are related to the patients, and we have payer records, which are basically insurance records. So we can have really complex models which use the financial data and the health record data for developing better solutions. So then we have molecular research data from pharmaceutical research, which are really helpful for drug discovery and creating new kind of medicines that are really that have really low side effects. This is the data data that are present in the healthcare ecosystem. Now, coming to the next slide, we have a lot of places where AI can be applied in the healthcare, but right now in this webinar we'll be focusing on three aspects, which are prevention, where the algorithms can be used to detect detect the risk of a disease way before that disease actually occurs in a person. So this can really reduce a lot of strain on the person and also the healthcare system. Next, we have the diagnosis, where a patient which is presented with a few symptoms is consulted and now checked if the disease is present or not. So this is mostly done when the person is actually having the disease at that point of time, and a lot of the research is being done on the diagnosis and screening stage of the disease. So most of the research is being done in this area. And the last one is therapeutics, where AI is helping clinicians to take care of the disease once that is detected in screening and diagnosis. So we will now move to the so this is just to show that the amount of research papers that are coming forward in different domains. As you can see, most of the applications and research papers are coming in the diagnostic imaging part. So it is the most researched and most advanced areas in AI for ML, AI for medical research. So coming to the prevention, recently people have the healthcare stakeholders have identified that it is always better to know the risk of a disease way beforehand, rather than finding about the disease when it actually happens. So this has a lot of advantages, because if a patient is expecting a disease, he or she can really work towards the financial hurdles for the treatment. And also knowing that a group of people will be having and will be expecting treatment can also allow the healthcare industry to improve or anticipate the or plan for the treatment that they are choosing. So the healthcare industry is now moving towards and putting a lot of money into research for detecting the disease way before that actually happens. This can be based on a lot of things, like the health style of a patient, the data from the wearables that records the physiological signals from a patient or potential patient, and and in case of like pandemics, lot of suppose if you want to uh, uh, suppose if government want to check their or government want to change their policy regarding border control uh, in terms of the epidemic risk and a lot of epidemic control for the pandemics like COVID-19, they can do so by analyzing a lot of that is available from multiple sources like the WHO and local healthcare authorities. This data is usually really large in number, and the quantity is very large, and uh, they are really spread out in a lot of areas. So it is not always easy for a researcher to find out that the direct cause from a direct cause of a disease, and it is way before. So it is a really interesting and a really helpful area of medical field. So a few examples for this is the famous Apple Watch, where it has it will record our ECG signal from the watch, and it will run through Apple's patented algorithms, where they detect atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is when our heart beats very irregularly, and this is one of the few sort of precursors for a stroke. So if a watch can detect the irregularities in our heartbeat, it can alert authorities and the person themselves that a stroke might happen soon, and they can seek help. Regarding the pandemic risk detection, Blue Dot is a company that actually predicted the risk of an epidemic of COVID-19 way before, at least 1 week before WHO or other national healthcare agencies reported that there is an epidemic. They do so by analyzing a lot of independent data sources across the world, which are in news channels, travel histories, and stuff like that, and they alert the clients, which are usually government agencies, that they might have a risk of an epidemic, and they can take the sufficient actions to curb the importing of the epidemic or the virus infected persons. Coming to the more personal health regime, the retinopathy is the destruction of blood vessels in our eye, and these are usually detected. This can be detected very early using artificial intelligence by scanning the eye, and it is one of the first FDA approved solutions where an AI is used to detect the possibility of retinopathy. And other example is Foxy, which is an AI-powered chatbot where it will help you regarding to tweak your lifestyle and food intake to have a really nutritious diet and a healthy body. So we'll move on to the diagnosis part. So this is, as I mentioned before, this is one of the most research areas in this in AI, and it detects for the signs of the disease that is already present. So it is a much here it is much more important, and since the person is already having the disease, much more is at stake. So hence there is a lot of research going on in this field. Coming to the data types, it is actually common for a lot of for other the other areas also, but here I just want to like split it up into different data types. So we have textual, in this field we have textual data type, which is actually the doctor's notes during consultation, and other documentations that are done at a hospital. Then we have numerical measurements where we take the the temperature, the height, weight, and other parameters from our in our body. And then we have time series recorded signals, which are like the electrophysiological signals that are measured from our body, which is most notably ECG, which is the electrical measurement of electrical signals from our heart, and then the EEG, which is the recorded signals from our brain. Then we have a lot of imaging techniques which will take pictures of our body using several techniques where clinicians can have a deep understanding of what's happening in our body. So these are the main data types, and a lot of investments and research is going on in the diagnostic imaging part, and it has produced a lot of really great improvements in AI-enabled solutions. So during similar to the diagnosis part, we have a lot of techniques, a lot of areas where the textual data is analyzed for diagnosis. Here, the main technology or main technique used is NLP, which is natural language processing, and recently we have a lot of advancements in this field, and it is helping or it is inspiring a lot of startups and researchers to build solutions that leverage NLP. So here are some examples of places where the text analytics are used. One is DeepScribe, where the note taking while consultation for a patient is by a clinician is automated. So whenever a patient is being consulted by a clinician, it's an app will be activated, and it will automatically transcribe the interaction, and it will update it into the electronic health record system. Similarly, these notes can also help clinicians in making decisions, and these are these are integrated to a system of an IT system, which is usually known as clinical decision support systems, where the clinical data is provided to the system, and it will produce the most most recommended action plan for patient. So similarly, chatbots are a more upcoming area where a lot of interest is there for medical applications. So companies like Conversa, Healthily, and ADA are companies that are developing chatbots. It is really helpful during the pandemic, because we have a lack of clinician time, and automating some of the consultation can reduce a lot of burden on the already strained doctors. So coming to the diagnosis for using recurrent signals. It is one of the most after the imaging modality. It is one of the most researched area for automation, automating the diagnosis. So cardiovascular diseases are one of the most one of the leading causes of death worldwide. So a lot of it makes sense that a lot of work has been done in automating the interpretation of ECG. So ECG is the recording of the electrical signal generated by the heart, and and since our heart is required to beat regularly, there is a periodicity in the signals generated by the nervous system there, and the slight differences in a phase or phase of these signals, regularities in these signals are really helpful for are really what doctors look for in consultation, and it is what this is one of the first things that people do when people or the clinicians do perform when they have a patient with a heart disease. Other than that, we have EEG, which is electroencephalogram. This is the recording of the electrical signals from our brain, and it is really helpful in studying the brain. And this time series data can be really used for a lot of detecting a lot of diseases such as neural brain damage, epilepsy, etc. Other than that, we have the regular the phonocardiogram, which is the audio recording of our heart. So even with this sound recording, the a trained clinician can detect symptoms for heart disease, lung disorders, etc. Actually, there's a typo here. It's actually PCG. It's phonocardiogram. So sorry for that. So these are the most common signals that are used for machine learning in this area. And I just want to quickly share a resource where if you are interested in developing solutions for this area, there is really great resource called PhysioNet. It is a database for the ECG and EEG signals, and which most of which are classified into deceased or non-deceased categories. So if anyone is interested in developing solutions, maybe as a startup or even for their final year project, I think this is a really great place for such signals. We have and they have like around terabytes of data for these signals, and it is available for free. So in this area, I just want to show to bring your attention to a few startups which are really famous and also important, which I feel is important in this area. One is Echo, which is a startup that creates, which is a hardware startup where they take, where they produce, they manufacture accessories for a stethoscope, which can be easily attached to a normal stethoscope, and right now then it will record the heart sounds and lung sounds, and it will share it to the app, and then during their use their AI algorithms for detecting the atrial fibrillation or some other heart diseases. So this is the Echo is an FDA approved device, and it is available for the common market, and this is one of the most used digital stethoscope these days. Coming to Neuralink, I think a lot of people follow Elon Musk, and this is one of his ventures. I am really hopeful and looking forward to the development and availability of the Neuralink device. Not because it will be not because of its use as a brain-computer interface, where you can listen to music or control your mobile phone or electronics with the interface, but it's mostly because it is one of the it will be one of the best way to detect a lot of diseases in the brain. Usually during recording of our EEG, it is the EEG is actually taken from outside our skull. So it actually dampens a lot of signals, and we have lost a lot of, we lose a lot of information regarding information and signals regarding what's happening deep inside our brain. And as you can see, the number of channels in this EEG is usually not more than 100. So when there are like 100 channels, it will require 100 electrodes that needs to be stuck onto our head, and it is really cumbersome and really hard. So Neuralink will be really helpful in that, because they claim to have around 1,000 channels. Right now we have not more than 100 channels in most of the places where EEG is taken. In contrast to that, Neuralink will have at least 1,000 channels from our brain. So this is one of this is really helpful for people like people who is affected by epilepsy. Currently, people with it is really hard to detect the signs of epilepsy when the person is not having epilepsy. So usually people will go to the clinician after they have an episode of epilepsy. So what the in many places what clinicians do is they actually uh, they actually place a patient in a room, and they flash lights and produce really epilepsy-inducing noises to the patient, and they they then induce the epilepsy. So if a person is having epilepsy, most of the time these kind of signals are given. People are then an epileptic person will have a seizure at that point of time. So it is really hard for an epileptic patient to go through this procedure because before this procedure they cannot sleep. They are not allowed to sleep at all. So to increase the chance of occurring the seizure. So these are really areas or areas where having this Neuralink which records the patient's health, patient's EEG or electrical signals from our brain in the real time can really help improve the quality of life of a person, of an epileptic person. So that's these are one of the few things that I got, a few companies that I got interested in this area. Coming to the diagnostic imaging, it is the one of the most interested areas in healthcare because it offers a wide range of uses for clinicians, and it really tells the clinicians what's happening in our body in a much more detailed manner. So it is one of the most it is one of the most researched area in research area for medical AI. So there are similarly here there are a lot of imaging techniques such as X-ray, CT, MRI, ultrasound, and PET scan for in vivo imaging. In vivo imaging is the imaging of a person's body as a whole or a part of their body without taking out that part outside, without taking out the part of interest outside. So it's within the body. So these produce a lot of large quantities of data, and it is widely researched. For ex vivo, where persons where a part is taken out of the body and it is imaged. These are most commonly used in cancer studies and for cancer diagnosis. They are histology and cytology. So histology is the study of tissues. So what they do is, so whenever someone says that talk about having a biopsy, they are actually doing histology. So what they do is, suppose for a cancer, if the patient is suspected of cancer, most of the time they have to undergo a biopsy where if they are having a suspicious lump on their body, that lump, part of that lump is taken out, and it is sliced. That part is sliced and it is imaged under the microscope. This is what this is how pathologists can see how their pathologists can determine if the patient is cancerous or not. Similar to that, we have cytology, which is the study of cells rather than tissues. So in histology, also we can see the cells, but they are they still maintain their structure. So it is much more. It will give much more information about what how it was when it is in the body. But in cytology, we are actually we actually take out the cells and we disperse it in a medium. So there is no structural integrity at that time, and we view the cells as a cell individually. It is cytology. In cytology imaging, there are two fields, which are two types of images, which are bright field, where it will where it is where the cells are stained, and it is shown against a white light and bright light, and it is imaged. In the other part, it's the fluorescence microscopy, where a compound is mixed with the cell, and it is the cell is energized by giving a light, and then the light is removed. So the certain the compounds injected into the cell will bind to certain compounds in our cell, and based on the characteristics, it will emit light when the transmission light is switched off. So this can provide a lot of information regarding the integrity of a cell. So these are some of the data types and kinds of imaging available. Of course, this is not a comprehensive list, and there are still research going on for developing new kinds of imaging. So, but this is one of the most common stuffs out there. And now we have a lot of companies already in companies in the world where they focus much on the diagnostic imaging, and there are a lot of investments going on in the diagnostic imaging industry. As you can see, we can here there are like lot of technology giants such as Google, Microsoft, Philips, and other companies. But there are still there are two Indian companies I want to talk to you about. One is Miramai. It is one of the most talked artificial intelligence startup in the medical field in India. So it focuses on thermal imaging, where it images the breasts and detect if they are having breast cancer or not. The other one Indian companies are Artilus here. So they are also having breast cancer research and lung cancer research, where they detect from X-rays and CT detect the disease from X-rays and CT scans. Other than that, Google is also really into breast cancer research for automating the histopathology diagnosis. So histopathology diagnosis is the sort of the gold standard for diagnosis for a lot of cancers. So a lot of research is going on histology. Next, I want to talk about a few of the things I have worked on at IASC related to oral cancer. So I have worked mostly on oral cancer. So I just want to tell you about the diagnostics and screening technologies that I was trying to develop, or my team was trying to develop at IISc. So our focus was on oral cancer. So it is one of the most common cancers in low and middle income countries, mostly due to some kind of, mostly due to the risk habits such as smoking. So it is one of so 30% of the cancer deaths in India is caused by oral cancer. So that calls for research in improving the cancer diagnosis. So as I told before, here also histology is the gold standard. So here since histology is really invasive, that is where you have to cut a person's part of the body out. So that is really really painful, and it involves a lot of patient trauma. So finally, if a patient is not having cancer, then that's really bad, and it's something that we all want to reduce. Also, our hospital infrastructure is mainly concentrated in India, is mainly concentrated in urban areas, and people in rural areas have really low very reduced access to hospitals, and most of the diagnosis is done in really tertiary hospitals and not in primary healthcare centers. So because primary healthcare centers does not have the manpower or the capabilities to diagnose diagnose the disease. So if a person in rural area is having or is developing cancer, it is really hard for that person to get access to care in a timely manner. Other than that, in studies it was known that for oral cancer, if a person is detected with oral cancer at a very early stage, he or she is more likely to survive the cancer than a person who is detected at the later stage. This is especially true for oral cancer, and the survival rate is increased by 82% if detected early. Other problems include manpower shortage. For a country with 1 billion people, we don't have enough pathologists and diagnostic labs in our country where people can perform these tests. So that makes the so the pathologist is the person who has to diagnose the disease. So the shortage the shortage of pathologists means that a lot of people have to wait a lot of time to get diagnosed for the disease. And also there are different modalities, that is different techniques that we can use to detect the disease. Previously I mentioned cytology. So cytology is actually a bit more painless. So for oral cancer, cytology involves the cell extraction not by cutting. A patient's body part, but just by scraping using a brush. So it is much less painful. But the issue with cytology is that once the cellular integrity, the structure of the tissue is lost, which is which is most likely the case, because we are just taking the or we are just scraping off the cells. So the structural integrity is lost for the tissue, and the pathologist cannot easily come at a conclusion just from the cells. So and also, like, they will have to look at a lot of cells to arrive at a conclusion. So this calls for an AI solution where you can have where you can detect the oral cancer. So there are different stages for oral cancer, and it is first stage is low grade dysplasia, and which is like we will have a few cells which are atypical or cancerous in nature. Then it progresses to high grade dysplasia, where we have the cancer actually spread to more tissues and more area, and more cells are having the atypical nature of the cell. Finally, we have oral squamous cell carcinoma, which is the full-blown cancer. And most of the time, a clinician can detect the final cancer stage even without the histopathology very accurately. But for detecting the lower stages, it is very difficult, and hence a lot of people will come only when they are in the final stage. So we want to detect the cancer, the stages early, and we want to improve the healthcare diagnosis pipeline of the disease detection. So the people at IAC and several clinicians come up with a solution where they develop a slide scanner, where the slide prepared by after taking the cells is scanned automatically. So this can be placed at a primary healthcare center, thereby improving the scanning capabilities at that. There, and can be used by really less skilled staff, and anyone can be trained easily to scan this. And then we have cell extraction algorithms. So people will, the pathologists will have to look at a lot of cells to arrive at a conclusion. So we need to develop a solution where the cells can be automatically extracted. Then we have a classification algorithm based on the morphology of the cell. We have developed a solution where we can classify the cells. And finally, it is the classification and the conclusion by the algorithm is verified by pathologists remotely. So all these technologies play a key role in improving the detection of oral cancer early. So we developed a study where we use a scanning platform and use cytology to extract the cell, and we scan the slides onto a platform and send it to a remote pathologist. Then we developed our own image processing algorithms to detect the cells and the abnormality in these cells. And finally, we compare the results. So here, first we take the image and we remove the boundaries using image processing algorithms. and then we have, since the cells, we want to get the cells individually, but sometimes the cells will be clubbed. So we use algorithms like watershed segmentation to split the cells, and then sometimes the cells will be we will only get the partial cells after these processes. So we will only consider the cells which are complete, and we will discard the other ones. So once we get the cell, we will feed them to a neural network which will classify it into a normal and atypical. So we used I used an open architecture which was developed by Google in section V3, which was already trained on a lot of images, but I used retrain the network to the retrain the network to classify the cells. So you can test this architecture, and it is openly available. I think it's called, there is a site called TensorFlow for Poets, so you can really easily test out this infrastructure. Now, finally, when I fed the cells to the neural network, it showed an atypical score. So normally, the cells with a larger nucleus and a shorter cytoplasm is atypical, which is a precursor for cancer cells. Then, so the cancer patients will have a lot of cells like the larger nucleus cells. Normal patients will have shorter or squamous cells and larger cytoplasm. So as you can see, this is the output of the neural network, and as the atypical score increases, the cells with that have a larger nuclear cytoplasmic ratio, so that they are atypical. So the neural network is actually pretty good at detecting these, was really good at predicting these types of cells. So after that, we took the statistics, the aggregates like mean score of these cells for each patient, and try to see if we can sort of make several thresholds to classify the patients into like low grade, high grade, and cancerous patients. So it was seen that we can then easily separate these classes into the different classes. So in our case, when the cytology was manually done, the manual where the cytopathologist is looking at the cells, only 60% accuracy was done. And the ground truth here is the histopathology result. So, but for detecting low grade, the sensitivity of the of manual was very low, which is like 25%. That is because the images will only have a few number of cells that will be cancerous. So, but for the automated method, which was developed with artificial intelligence, it gave 90% accuracy in predicting the classes, and for lower grades, we have 73% sensitivity, which is really important in predicting the cancers early. And this is what we have done, and right now work is done for improving the cell segmentation and other improving the results for improving the sensitivity further. So, and finally moving to therapeutics, this is where how AI can help in detecting the help improve the care or treatment of the disease. So there are here also the clinical decision support systems, which are IT systems implemented in hospitals to assist clinicians to make better decisions. AI can also improve that process, where the data from the medical IoT devices, such as the temperature, continuous temperature measuring devices, and blood pressure measuring devices, can send data to the system, and it will detect if the patient needs care at that point of time when they are at the hospital. So that is where the real-time monitoring comes in. Then we have drug discovery, where we need to find the most effective drug to be used at a patient. So this is where the antibiotic and antimicrobial resistance also comes. So here, as you can see on the right side, there are places where this is a study which used artificial intelligence in the study of antimicrobial resistance. So here you can see the researchers have grown the bacteria, and they have put several kinds of types of antibiotics in them. So if the if the antibiotics is effective, it will kill all the bacteria. Here the bacteria is the whitish patch here, and if the antibiotic is effective, it will wipe out all the bacteria in here, hence the darker shade here. So this can be automated. The analysis of this can be automated, and where we can use the drug which reduce the bacterial population to 0. Other than that, the companies that works in this area is AI Therapeutics, and there are several other companies which do sort of the same thing. And other than that, robots can be empowered with AI technologies to improve the surgical procedures. So one of the most famous and the most popular robots that are used in surgery is a Da Vinci robot, and which is developed by Intuitive Surgicals, which is right now researching on implementing vision-based and other AI techniques into the robots features. So that's it for the therapeutics. Let's talk about the challenges that we are facing while developing solutions for medical industry. So due to the patient confidentiality agreements and the privacy policy of hospitals, they have their own islands of information which they don't share, or patient information which they don't share with other people. It is very difficult to come for different hospitals to come in agreement and share the patient details. So and they always have non-standard ways of storing information. So it is one of the most difficult challenges to overcome when developing AI, because we need a lot of data, and this data is dispersed across different places. So standardizing the data acquisition and that logging of the uploading the patient information is really important. It is mostly right now. I think these are mostly standardized in other developing countries, but in India, I am sure it's not the case. And one of the other reasons, one other challenge is that the most of the AI algorithms are mostly focused on developing or improving the performance of the systems. That is, like if they are predicting the disease correctly or not. But it is really not a good way to do so, and we have to make sure that the the model should focus on factors that are clinically relevant and that are not just because of the correlation in data. So one thing that we have to develop algorithms that are more explainable and more interpretable. It is but that is more harder when we have more complex models such as deep neural networks. Another another issue which I personally face, which I personally faced during my time at IISc was that a lot of clinicians come forward with their issues, and they offer offer that they have a lot of patients and potential to generate a lot of data, but they do have like decades of patient data, but they are in in some paper or some other formats which is not currently digitized. So it is actually really important to develop algorithms that that can extract this information. Then there are ethical considerations that need to be taken before every major research study, especially in terms of, especially that is true in a medical field. So whenever we have to make sure that whenever there is a study going on, it needs to be inclusive. It needs to include all gender, all race, ethnicity, etc. So there are like backlash in face recognition algorithms, and even for mobile applications that improve the and filters that are really bad in bad for people of color. So these kind of issues happen when the data sets is imbalanced and are not trained on the general population or data from the general population. So these are some of the ethical implications. Another ethical implication is the responsibility. So suppose an algorithm that get misdiagnosed. So who will bear responsible for that? So is that the clinicians that use the system, or the developers that developed it? So these are the the questions that are still unanswered, and we need consistent dialogue with a lot of people to come at a really acceptable solution. Other than that, there are regulatory approvals that are required, and one should always be careful while dealing with patient information, and it needs to be there are certain procedures that are required to be followed, and especially in electronic format, different countries have different regulatory frameworks in place for the American agencies. It is HIPAA, where they provide certain rules on how to handle patient information. In Europe, it is GDPR, and in India, we still actually don't have a rigorous framework for that. And Disha Act is it has been recently, or I think in 2018, it had been presented in the parliament in a draft form. So once that comes into place, we will have a legal framework for handling patient information. For people, for students, it is really there are a lot of things that you can do to develop patient solutions for the healthcare industry in general. So one of the things I understood during my time as at GSP was to always have interdisciplinary collaborations across departments. So it will really help to build a holistic solution, and it is always good to have interaction with clinicians, and as engineers we should always be mindful, and we should always listen to their trouble so we can develop solutions that are useful to the healthcare industry. Then there are a lot of and when if you want to start developing solutions, you don't have to approach a clinician or try to have a collaboration. We can have a lot of there are a lot of open data sets available, such as once I shared, like Physionet, and also Kaggle data sets that you can utilize to have a feel on how the data set look like and develop solutions. And as for the machine learning, since it is really compute intensive, I understand that many of us might not have the computing capabilities at our with our laptops or PC. Even at college, I'm not sure how we have really good, if we have really good PCs there. So cloud computing is one option to do. So for Google, from Google, we have Collabs, which is really helpful for a lot of people to for a lot of people that develops for developing ML solutions, and it is free, of course. Additionally, Google Cloud, Microsoft, and Amazon provides free cloud resources where you can use, which can be used for training neural networks and stuff like that. And as for startups, these cloud giants will always give, like, I think around lakhs of rupees in cloud credits, so that you can train neural networks. And I personally know that because I work for a early stage startup, so and they are given like thousands of dollars for by Google and Amazon to run their computational workflow in the cloud. Further, other than that, there are lots of opportunities for even for students to apply for funding. And right now we have a lot in Kerala itself. We have really good startup ecosystem that is slowly budding. So we can also everyone can try or utilize that funding, utilize that facilities. Then we have the government also gives out a lot of funding for research groups and startups. You can also look into DST, a Department of Science and Technology website, and then BIRAC, which is the wing of DST, where they fund specifically for medical and other biotechnology related research. So I think we are a bit over time. So hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do we have enough time for a few more slides? I just want to quickly show about the infrastructure inspection system. In a few examples, that's it. So or we can stop here, because the medical AI in medical industry part is done. So it's up to you. Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Since we are out of time, like it will take us.
Sir, we were about to wind up in 8
Sure, sure.
o'clock.
Yeah, sure. The medical field part is complete, so you can we can stop here then.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Please fill the feedback form. For those in Gmeet, it is available in the chat. Certificates will be provided only those who fill feedback. So we have reached the end of this wonderful session. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us with your thoughts. I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to all the participants who have shown overwhelming response and support through the session. Stay tuned with CSI GECB for more exciting events. Thank you and have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you.